Good. Hello, everyone. Good. There is an ancient proverb that says this: if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And for centuries, teachers of the way of Jesus have likened apprenticeship to a kind of spiritual journey, a long journey of becoming a person of love and like God. And like the proverb says, it's a journey that we were designed to go on together in community. Now, over the last 7 weeks in our preaching series here at Mosaic, we've been looking at a series called Practicing the Way. And we've been laying out a foundation for a life of apprenticeship to Jesus. And Rich began our series with the 3 driving goals of an apprentice. 1, to be with Jesus. 2, to become like him. And 3, to do as he did. And then we looked at spiritual formation over 2 weeks. And Matt reminded us that we've already been formed or deformed. And therefore, all formation in the way of Jesus is counter-formation. This brought us to the practices of Jesus. And the practices are how we do what we can so that Jesus can do what we currently cannot do. It's like training. You can't shoot the basket from the three-point line, but if you practice, you might be able to do down the road. He transforms us to live and love like him. That's the spiritual formation. But the practices only take us so far. We then have to meet God in our pain and suffering and go on the inner journey as well. And what the Bible calls sin is a major obstacle in that journey. So we covered the layers of sin and how we heal through the practice of confession. And this all built up to crafting a rule of life. Whoa, some of you are thinking, goodness me, what have you been doing over the last 7 weeks? Which Matt spoke about the week before last. And he explained that a rule of life is not a set of rules, but a schedule and a set of practices and relational rhythm to organize our lives around spiritual formation. Doing the things that Jesus did in his life to enable him to live the life he lived. And all along the way, we put these ideas into practice by integrating spiritual disciplines like quiet, prayer, scripture, Sabbath into our busy lives to slow down and simplify our lives around God. Now, for some of you, over the last few weeks, these things have been like giving you a backpack and tools, a compass, a map to go for, and you're ready. Right, journey, ready, here I go. I'm like, just hang on a minute. What's the problem? Well, there's an issue here. What is it? Well, you're kind of going off on your own. Yep, I know. I'm going to do solitude. I'm going to read my book, and I'm off. I'm becoming more like Jesus. I'm practicing the way. Actually, that's the problem, because it was never meant to be something you do on your own. This is something that happens together. We go on a journey together. We have to journey together. You're not meant to go on this journey alone. We are meant to follow Jesus in community with others. I think I'll take this off now. We started this series with Jesus' invitation in Mark 1. I don't know if you remember it. It's a famous line that Jesus spoke. He said, "Come follow me," Jesus says, "and I will send you out to fish for people." Mark 1, verse 17. And then we read, at once they left their nets and followed him. Notice Jesus didn't have an apprentice singular. He had apprentices plural, disciples plural. Meaning Jesus' invitation to come and follow him was in community. I don't imagine this happened, but as I was preparing, I was thinking about, these guys that Jesus had come up to and asked to follow him, and then they get round the corner. It's like, wait, well, I thought this was like special time. I thought Jesus was calling me in. Now this lot, oh my God, Peter, seriously, I know him. And it's like they were thinking something special, and then actually this meant in community with others. I don't know what went through the disciples' minds, but there's my little take on it. A little afterwards, Jesus went up on the mountainside and called to him those he wanted. And they came to him, and he appointed 12 that they might be with him. Now, why 12? Why not 21 or 100? Well, because this is a highly, highly symbolic act. Jesus is intentionally naming 12 disciples to evoke the 12 tribes of Israel. It's Jesus' way of saying he is forming a new family. What we call the church is not a building, it's not a meeting or an event. It's a new family. The church is a new family, not based on blood, but on apprenticeship to Jesus. Just a few sentences later, we read this. A crowd was sitting around him, and they told him, "Your mother and brothers are here outside looking for you, Jesus." "Who are my mother and my brothers?" he asked. I mean, whenever I read that, I always think, that's a little bit harsh there, Jesus. But he was making a point. He looked at those seated in the circle around him, and he said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. Whoever does God's will is my brother and sister and mother." And the word Jesus used for brother and sister in the original language is adelphoi, and it literally means sibling. It comes as no surprise in the writing of the New Testament that the word adelphoi is the only other word that is used as frequently as disciple. The Apostle Paul uses adelphoi over 130 times in his letters. And one of the main ways Paul and the New Testament explain Jesus' work is through the metaphor of adoption. Through Jesus, we have been adopted into a family of God. God has become our Father, Jesus our older brother, and our fellow apprentices have become our siblings, our brothers and sisters. Hence, some of the letters written in the Bible start with, "Dear brothers and sisters." To become an apprentice of Jesus is to become part of a new family. One that transcends all lines that divide us. Race, class, gender, politics, intelligence, all of it. Meaning, Jesus desires not just to form you into a person of love, but to form a community of love. Now, this has all sorts of implications for our apprenticeship to Jesus, our kind of following him. You can't follow Jesus alone. Not you shouldn't, but you can't. The whole point of the spiritual journey is to become a person of love. Jesus called love the greatest commandment. And someone has described the Christian faith as a relational spirituality by which we are loved into people of love. This means that spiritual formation is a relational process at its core. You simply won't get very far in your spiritual journey if you try and go alone. Remember my initial attempt to go out alone. Dr. Joseph Herman put it this way. Spiritual formation occurs primarily in the context of community. Long-term interpersonal relationships are the crucible. That's a great word. I love that word. I was trying to, crucible. Great word. Long-term interpersonal relationships are the crucible of genuine progress in the Christian life. People who stay grow. People who leave do not grow. This is why the church is so essential. But by church, I don't mean simply attending on a Sunday morning, coming to a large gathering meeting. It's usually in the smaller, more relational spaces where we experience the most profound change. There is a growing body of research from the social sciences, some of you may be into that groups relationships into different categories based on the group size and the depth of vulnerability. So one of the most widely accepted paradigms, which you may have heard of from Dr. Robin Dunbar, which you probably haven't heard of, is Dunbar's number. Okay, Dunbar's number. Now, he calls our inner circle our intimates. Now, this is a slightly awkward Americanism for Brits. But anyway, intimates. Close friends, let's put it that way. I had to put what he called it, but for the British audience, it doesn't help so much. Anyway, slightly awkward, but it's friends, close friends, 1 to 5 people who know us deeply. They know the good, the bad, and they love us as we are. And I imagine most of us have a few people like that who you can bare your soul to, maybe a spouse or a best friend, a mentor. And the next circle is our friends, which goes up to like 15 people. This is Dunbar's number. And this is the people we do life with. We practice the kind of one another's of the New Testament. We love one another. We bear each other's burdens. We help with one another. We move people into new houses. We go on holiday together. We share meals. When somebody's pregnant or sick, we take round meals. This kind of life that we do together. This is our community. The next threshold is around 150 mark, and sociologists call this the law of 150. Really catchy title there. As 150 is about the maximum number, so I'm told, of people we can be in relationship with, and apparently it's the optimal group size for all human organization. While there are some very large churches and organizations, this is also about the size of most local churches. Interesting. And so we draw on this wider social network for all sorts of things. This is our village. And the final circle is our tribe, the larger group we identify with and belong to. We don't know all these people personally, but this group is where we get our vision of life and a kind of sense of call to live with meaning and purpose. This could be a company or maybe a political party or a sports team. And for us followers of Jesus, the primary place is the church of Jesus. And when it comes to our spiritual formation, we need relationships across all 4 circles. Now, interestingly enough, Jesus was ahead of the game. He had relationships. He knew Dunbar's number. Jesus had relationships at every layer. If you think he had 3 close friends, Peter, James, and John. Maybe it's Jesus' triplet. He had the 12, his mission group. And he had a few chosen friends like Mary and Martha who were part of that. Then he had a group of 120 in Jerusalem that he spent time with and talked, and then the larger church that he left behind. And healthy people have relationships in all 4 circles, but our deepest formation, growth, healing, and change all happens where? In the smaller circles. C.S. Lewis, author of Lion and Witch and the Wardrobe, and a friend of J.R. Tolkien, said, the essence of friendship can be summed up in the phrase, you too? I love that. I mean, C.S. Lewis is great with words, but just 2 words will do in this situation. The essence of friendship can be summed up in, you too? Meaning that friends come together around shared interests or experience. And in a spiritual friendship, the primary shared interest and experience is Jesus. And we need a community to do life with. We are created to live deeply relational lives. And it's in the first 2 circles of our closest community, our triplet maybe, and close friends, and our mission group that we experience deep, lasting transformation. And yet, we all have a little mixed feelings about these deep relationships. I can see some of you are like, yeah, that's not for me. No, thank you. Very happy here. Part of us longs for connection to God and others, right? We want to know and be known. We want to love and be loved, but part of us is terrified of connection, especially if maybe in our childhood we didn't receive steady, consistent, unconditional love from our parents, or we've been maybe deeply hurt along the way, maybe a relationship that really went bad. Counselor Susie House once said, our deepest wounds come from relationships, but so does our deepest healing. These deeper relationships are essential to healing and growth, but because of Western individualism and our digital distraction, these types of relationships will not just happen by accident. They require us to make an intentional effort. So what do these deep relationships look like? What do these friendships look like? Spiritual friendships then are marked by 3 core characteristics. The first is depth. These are not kind of superficial relationships where we just engage on a surface level. So football, latest Netflix, level 1 communication. Like, how you doing? You all right? Yeah, I'm good, thanks, good. Football, we've seen the footy, yeah, brilliant, good. That kind of level. I call that level 1. That's not what we're talking about. We can all do that. And it's very frustrating when somebody comes up to you and says, how are you doing? You all right? And you're like, what do you say? Like, well, if you've got the 5-minute version, the half-an-hour version, it's a difficult one, but Brits love saying that. You all right? You're like, yeah, no, and yeah, okay, yeah, fine. Level 1. I mean, I get it. It's a greeting. I'm Brit too, but confusing for those of you not from England. So we talk in spiritual friendships about what's below the surface. We talk about the real stuff that's going on, how we're doing with God, maybe our pain or our sufferings or our struggles. Remember that message that who was it? I'm trying to remember. Forgotten her name. Anyway, Lisa, thank you. I apologize, Lisa, if you're listening to this online. It was a fantastic message. And she talked about the challenge of speaking about some of these deeper level issues. I call those level 5, going deep, right? Level 5, you get familiar with those kind of levels. Sometimes Julie and I talk about which level are we going to right now, just so we're clear. Have we got time to go to level 5? Anyway, this is what we're talking about, level 5. But it's not just depth, it's also vulnerability. One of our biggest challenges in the church is that we pretend. Let me say that again. One of the biggest challenges in the church is that we pretend. By that, I mean we like to kind of project strength, project a kind of not our authentic self, but our kind of almost like our inauthentic self. In other words, the things we want people to see, we kind of emphasize the things that make us look good. And I know personally that's been a struggle ever since I was a young whippersnapper of thinking I'm it. And it's taken 50 years to get to the point where actually I'm not it. I realized that a bit before that. But there's a danger is that we kind of push a projection of ourselves that is not where we're really at. And this is where we've been kind of conformed to the pattern of the world. We've been squeezed into this mold that says we have to look strong, we have to have it all together, we have to be perfect, we have to be good. I was on half term in Norfolk, and there's a lovely bank to run a flood defense that you can go for a run out to the beach. And I was going for a run, got my kit on, my shoes, running, and there are lots of walkers on this bank. So it's bird watchers and people going for a walk, half-term kids. And so I'm going for a run at kind of sunset time. Beautiful. Anyway, I can't believe I'm telling you this. Anyway, as I approach a group of walkers, ramblers, I speed up. I'm going fast. I not only speed up, but I'm like, this is what Navy SEALs, the Marines, this is Marine pace. And maybe, I didn't think this, but it's like, I'm somehow speeding up my run to what? I'm like, I run past them really fast and then slow down. I'm like, Tom, what are you doing? What? I mean, literally, I'm like, suddenly look beneath the surface and go, Tom, what was that? I mean, literally, it caught me off guard. Again, pretending I'm faster, I'm more athletic than I was. What is that? It's like hardwired into our kind of conform to this world that says you've got to be good, you've got to be strong. This is how you make it. And I'm thinking, this is not the way of Jesus. This is not the way of close relationships that forge change and transformation in our lives. But vulnerability is admitting to our weaknesses and our struggles. This is vulnerable. And the challenge with vulnerability is you are vulnerable. Me saying what I just said to you is a little bit of that is a vulnerable thing to do, because it's like you might be thinking, oh, I think less of Tom now. Really? He's doing that? Man, I don't really think he should. Is this qualification for leadership in Mosaic, that you kind of try to impress people with your running skills? Yikes. So being vulnerable is a cost. it's a little, not dangerous, scary, because you're opening yourself to what people think. But I found that as you are vulnerable, as you share things that are not this projection of strength or your inauthentic self, that people lean in. I don't find they reject and go away. Actually, they lean closer in and are able to be part of the process of change and transformation. There are two parts to this vulnerability that I just want to briefly go over, and that is speaking and listening. Speaking is basically telling the truth. So the first aspect of this practice is the practice of confession. In other words, naming our sin or kind of divulging things that we're struggling with and our shame to one another. It's this kind of being vulnerable with where we're really at. And we can't live without sin, says John Mark Comer, but we can live without secrets. I like that. Let me read it again. I had to read it lots of times before I got it. We can't live without sin, as in we're not sinless, but we can live without secrets. We have to be vulnerable, share our struggles and challenges, what's going on the inside. And also telling the truth is not just confessing your sin to one another, but also challenging sin in one another, calling it out. And this is what the Bible speaks of in Ephesians 4, verse 15, speaking the truth in love. You read that verse before? Speaking the truth in love. This is telling the truth. It's not just you saying to someone, this is what I'm struggling with. It's actually you speaking the truth in love to them. The first time this happened to me, that jolted me out of my 20-year-old, arrogant, proud, full self, was when I was on a train going from Brighton Station to Falmouth Station while I was at university. And I was with Julie, who has become my wife. Not then. We were dating. And I can't remember exactly what she challenged me with, but she basically said, Tom, you're a bit like this. I was like, whoa. I'm like, wow. And I tell you what, it was seriously attractive. Not only was she drop dead gorgeous, but she's also a straight shooter. I was hooked. I was like, I was literally floored. I mean, I've got lots of things to say normally. I didn't know what to say. It was just this moment of, and you're right, and whoa, I wonder why it was this kind of journey of someone calling me out actually led to change and growth, as opposed to like, what? Don't be silly. I mean, I was just floored. I mean, I was in love and floored at the same time, but that was the power of straight talking, the power of speaking the truth in love. I have a more recent example, and it actually involves my friend Rich here. He pulled me up on something just the other day, and we have a good relationship, and we're pretty open with one another. And not as gorgeous as Julie, no. So it didn't come with the same impact, but it was something that Rich just. I'm not going to say what it is, but Rich was just like, the other day when I'm like, yeah, I know. And I think what it wasn't, I wasn't drawing away like, oh no, what do you mean? I didn't do that. I was just like, oh yeah, I knew that, and I haven't been able to bring it up. But since he brought it up with me, then I could move forward with it. Then I could say, you know what, yeah, I was really struggling with that. It's like, why is that an issue? And then you could start to change. You can start to unravel why you do the things you do. It takes someone to love you and to call things out, to speak the truth in love, for you to be able to open up and maybe change. It's not a given, but it's a chance if somebody calls you out. I think we all appreciate people pointing things out. If it's not judgmental, I mean, a good one for you if you want to, go away and say, right, free license to say, this is what I've observed, or this is what I've seen. Not bringing the judgment. You do this because of this, don't you? Let them come with that, because I think they might know better than you do why. But you can come with, I'm noticing this, I'm seeing this, or you react like this when that happens. Why is that? Okay? Speaking the truth in love. The other part of vulnerability is listening, which I don't have lots to go into, but essentially listening deeply to one another's stories and struggles is what neurobiologists tell us is that when we feel heard and when we feel listened to, it's in a compassionate way, it's indistinguishable from feeling love. Now, what I'm saying is that clever people who study the brain have worked out through their gram things that when someone listens to you in an empathetic and real way, it's the same thing, gram, as being loved. It's indistinguishable in our brain. Isn't that amazing? So listening is really important. The other side of vulnerability is being able to listen without judgment or fear. Lastly, strong friendships, deep friendships, is a commitment to transformation. When nuns join a convent, they take vows, one of which is called the Conversio Morum, or conversion of life, which essentially is a vow to a lifelong spiritual formation, to never stop growing. Many of us reach a certain level of spiritual maturity and then plateau. I'm good, I'm fine. But as apprentices of Jesus, we come together not just to be a safe place to progress or process emotional pain, but to ultimately give ourselves more deeply to Jesus. So spiritual friendships do not work if one member is not fully committed to the transformational journey, vulnerability, and a commitment to transformation. Here's the thing. It's possible to go to church every Sunday and even, dare I say it, be in a small group, a mission group, but never have these types of relationships. But this is a culture that we have been, growing, developing here at Mosaic. It's a culture of transformation. That's part of our vision statement, God transforming lives. It demands something from you. Yes, even serving on a Sunday, playing in the band, serving tea and coffees, that's not what it's demanding from you, but a commitment to transformation, a commitment to grow together. To counteract the pull of the world, we need to feel the pull of our friends. And we all need to be pulling in the same direction, a commitment to transformation. I just want to add here as well is that God is committed to this as well. This is not just leadership of Mosaic thinks it's a great idea to practice the way and be transformed and changed into the image of Jesus. No, God is committed to that. That's the game plan. In Ephesians, listen to what it says. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. There's the confirmation. There's the transforming. God is committed to seeing us become like Jesus. Not just individuals, but as a community. That when people come here, when people meet us, when people are part of us, they feel like they're experiencing God himself. That we are like him. The Bible talks about, you may have sung hymns at school, we're his hands and feet. It's like odd phrase. It's like we are Jesus to people. We are becoming like him and demonstrating the same love and compassion and justice and help and love that Jesus showed. At Launchpad, which is our lunch and introduction to Mosaic Church, which, by the way, is on the 10th of November, if you'd love to hear more about Mosaic Church, we always make it very clear, we can't make your friends for you. So the leaders say, we're saying, we can't make your friends for you at church. We'd love to, but we can't do that. But what we can do is we can kind of connect you with people who will be able to go deeper with. We talk about 3 places to belong. We talk about Sunday meetings, mission groups, and triplets. Notice the circles. Triplets, the 3, the intimates, the close friends, the mission group, the 15, and the Sunday meetings, the community. These are places where you can belong. These are places where you can connect. These are places where you can grow and change. And my encouragement to you, if you're here and you're not in a mission group, is to maybe go to one. Go with your friend. Go to, if there's a person you think, I quite like the look of that group and the people they do, go to them. And what we'll find is as you make friendships, then maybe you could go the next level, which is closer friendships. Maybe have a triplet of people like Jesus, Peter, James, and John. If I could have the band up, please. It'd be brilliant. Honestly, I can tell you that after 8 years of living in community with you here at Mosaic, it has not always been easy, put it that way. Anybody else? Yeah, sometimes community is challenging. I mean, it's hard to say sorry and forgive, right? I mean, just at a very basic level. Community means messing up, failing people, having to say sorry, having to forgive other people. That's not easy. When it goes wrong, it can be incredibly painful, but when it goes right, it can be a glimpse of eternity in time. Living in community has changed me, my life, and helped transform me. And some people say that coming to church is a bit like coming home. It's like maybe you felt that today. You felt like there's something going on here. It's because Jesus is here. And we can't change you, but Jesus can. You need Jesus' power to transform your life. If you need healing or you need help with mental health issues or you're struggling with things, Jesus can help you. He is the one who brings change and healing and restoration and transformation. He is the one who created the world, the cosmos. He can change the human heart. And I want to leave you with the words of Jesus to say, come, follow me. If you're here and you've never followed Jesus, today might be the day to say, yeah, you know what? Okay, I'm looking around all these people, but yeah, okay, Jesus. If it means I get you, I can cope with this. And for those of you who are Christians and maybe you're here as a new student, you're here for church for the first time, we are saying, come with us. Come with us on the journey of transformation into being like Jesus. If you want to go far in this spiritual journey, cultivate a community of depth, vulnerability, and commitment to transformation, and follow Jesus together. Let's stand.